Hello, welcome. This is Card Shop Insiders, and that is John. I am Noah, and we are here from the Toy Factory to give you an inside look into the game store and the collectible gaming hobby. Today, John has prepared some thoughts and comments for us, and we are going to hear what he would like to share about customer retention and why you or your friends or people you've never met come back and buy at a store. Let's hear what you got, John.
I'll have a hell of a lot, Noah, because I'm not 100% prepared today. However, I printed this out a couple of weeks ago and I dug it out and I said I'm going to read it because I just didn't have the time to go through it. Uh, and I guess the whole thing is if you've ever run, let alone owned a business, the most challenging question a business can have is what will keep my customers coming back? In the case of a local card store or a shop, the answers can vary significantly based on location, population, and the overall demographic of the community. At its core, an LCS provides an escape. The goods sold are not essential to life, like we mentioned before off camera, like items found in a grocery store. In my opinion, what the LCS offers is a way to bring you closer to the sports or a specific team if I were selling uh, sports cards and things like that in a way that you can customize it as you see fit. Whether it be a team or a fan of a favorite player, a niche sport like darts. Do you ever see any darts cards? Is there anything like that?
I don't know, probably. Panini probably owns it.
Probably, probably. Oftentimes, the LCS will be the introduction to those young and old to start collecting or reconnecting with your youth and reobtain the collection that was I can't even say the damn thing, thrown out in the trash when you left home. Yeah, I remember that well. I had a lot of baseball cards. And when my parents got into my room one time, they cleared out a lot of my stuff after I left and had gotten married, and I was a little bit upset about it because a lot of the stuff was pretty valuable. They didn't even ask me about it. However, I did have a cigar box, and there was a such thing as a cigar box back then that you threw all your good stuff in this in the cigar box.
That's where the good stuff goes.
Yeah, and I kept it. You know how many cards I ruined because I used them to make the popping noise on spokes on a bicycle?
Mm-hmm.
Mickey Mantle cards, Yogi Berra cards, and things like that we used to get from a local store. I think I mentioned this before, named Blackie's.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm going to be repetitive about this because I have a fond memory of Blackie's. He was a block and a half from us, and a lot of the kids used to go there and spend our nickels and spend our dimes. He was a candy store. You could buy cigarettes and cigars and things there. Uh, Plus, he had sports cards. He had There wasn't gaming cards at that time, just sports cards. So we can go in there and spend 10 cents and get our pack of cards and get our gum out of the pack of cards. That's how old I am. It used to come with little
Remember how
square pink gum that stained the cards.
I told you I opened a box of like vintage baseball cards with a buddy over the summer, and it had the gum in it,
Did it?
and we had to basically pull every card that was up against the gum because it had the little oil stain on it.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But a lot of the cards were ruined because of that, and that's everybody complained at the time, and that's
PSA
why.
4.
Yeah, mine is four, and that's why they don't put gum in the cards anymore.
I thought it was because the gum sucked.
Well, another thing about Blackie's was he was a bookie.
Yeah, we talked
And
about this.
once my father found out about it, he said, "No, you're not going into that store anymore." And another reason was, catch this one. I didn't tell you this in the last one. There was a police car outside one day, and the police car got firebombed
Oh,
in
dear.
front of Blackie's.
Uh,
So one of the good guys in New Jersey got that police car. There was no policeman in it. he was in Blackie's or whatever.
He was in Blackie's
Yeah, he
taking a
was in
book.
Blackie's. Yeah, yeah. But that's what happened.
Getting his baseball cards.
All right, now,
To be clear, John does not run a bookie inside of the game store.
why do you collect, and why is it okay? Due to the wide range of ages that will ultimately frequent an LCS, it's imperative that the store can cater to as many eras as possible. Now, we're talking about pretty much sports cards when they talk about eras. Uh, a lot of there's not a lot of sports card stores specifically anymore. I don't sell sports cards anymore. I used to at one time, but there were so many of them you couldn't keep up. And a lot of people would come in and say, "Well, you got them for $4.99 a package. I can buy them at Walmart, or I can buy them at CVS or one of the other grocery stores or something like that for a heck of a lot less."
Yeah.
But people couldn't understand that those were not the hobby version of the cards. They were retail version. But you couldn't make them understand that. The only thing they understood is it was cheaper.
Yeah.
So,
but it was cheaper because it didn't have the odds on the cool cards.
Right. The hobby versions being
like there's some cards that were only in the hobby packs.
Right. But people didn't understand that. All they wanted was cheap pack for their kids.
The true players did.
And the problem was the sports cards industry back in the 90s kind of went down the tubes. And because there was so many of them out there was so many companies. And ultimately they got together, and I think Fanatics right now is probably one of the biggest because they acquired a lot of the other companies.
Yeah.
And sports cars still does do well. And there's that guy in Atlanta that was it $4 million facility or $5 million facility, the biggest card shop in the world or something like that. Yeah. But he's also carrying collectible gaming cards and that type of thing. Let's see. We get back to it. You got to cater to as many eras as possible, from vintage singles to modern day rookies. It's essential to offer options for their customer base. While it's impossible to stock everything, if the shop owners or employees take the time to listen to what their customers want, they can build a following of regulars. Now, that's important, and I want to address that, understanding your customer. I have regular customers, and a lot of times they'll say, "Can you get this card? Can you get that card?" Now, the only way I can get cards like that, they even ask if I can buy them online. And I tell them point blank, you can buy them at a cheaper price, because if I buy them, I'm going to have to charge you more for them. But a lot of them are a little bit too lazy to do so. So they'll say, "Try to get it for me." And I won't bilk them that way. If somebody comes into the store and wants to trade, and I remember that Joe wants this specific Magic card,
yeah,
I'll get that card and I'll hold it for Joe, and I'll send him an email or something. The next time you come in, here's that card for you. I have it. And if he doesn't want it, I just put it into inventory. It's not a Black Lotus or anything like that where I'm going to spend a lot of money for, and I have a lot of money tied up. I'm not going to do that. So you have to listen to your customer. You have to listen to what they want. You have favorite customers.
Yeah.
Not because they're favored as far as business wise, but they're usually nicer.
Yeah.
They're more pleasant to deal with. I have a lot of a-holes that come into the store. See, I'm being polite. I'm not saying asshole, but
no way.
But you got to take care of your regulars.
Yeah.
And that's important. Let me say, thinking outside the box can be a lifesaver for owners of card shops. Beyond having the cardboard that is synonymous with a card shop, integrating other merchandise such as actual jerseys, hats, and pennants can provide better margins and volume and offer a variety. Now, at one time, I had some other type of merchandise that was inherent to the store, like hats and shirts and things like that. They did okay at the beginning, but it wasn't a a long term effect, and I didn't carry them anymore.
Yeah.
It wasn't prudent for me to carry it. Now, if I had a local card shop that dealt in sports cards, that's a different story. Then you would carry all the ancillary stuff that you need, like these tubes that bats go in, jerseys with a player's name on it, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, you've talked to us before about the value in selling gaming supplies as a primary like card gaming store. Sleeves, play mats, deck boxes; those things have been traditionally a very lucrative addition to the store inventory, right?
Yeah, it is. Now, again, getting back to those tariffs that you mentioned, 35%, you're going to have to make a decision as a card shop owner. What are you going to do? Are you going to let it eat into your profit?
Nope, that's not how people roll.
No, it's not. So it's going to be passed on to the consumer.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting to see how the consumer is going to react to that.
Yeah. That's part of figuring out which ancillary products to sell, though. Do you sell only cards? Do you sell sleeves? Do you sell snacks, food, things like that?
Yeah, everything's going up,
We,
unfortunately.
there's game stores now that are liquor licensed and they sell liquor and they run basically a grown up bar where they play their card games. There's a lot of effort in establishing a game store that involves this question of what do I carry and why.
Yeah. Well,
Minis. Do you carry games and minis? Right.
you got to be really careful. And if you start getting into these other items, maintain an inventory that's lower. You can't go and stock up the store with a whole bunch of stuff and hope it's going to sell. You got to pretty much understand what you know is going to sell first. You can always get more, even if you have to pay more to get it. Instead of a big discount when you buy something, say you buy 100 or something, you get a certain discount on it.
Yeah.
Well, buy 25 of that thing. You're going to pay more for it, but you're better off getting stuck with 25 of them than 100 of them. All right, let's go back to this article. Most LCSs these days have incorporated non-sports items into their stores, as I mentioned before. Franchises such as Star Wars, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and Marvel all get some valued space in the shop and can even provide better margins than the traditional sports cards landscape. I don't know that for a fact, but you don't make a lot of money selling sealed boxes of anything, and they call it wax. You don't make a lot of money because there's too much competition online. You make more money selling individual packs, and that's a proven fact.
Yeah.
All right, let me see. One of the keys to success in this area is having employees who generally know these franchises and can speak knowledgeably about them. Uh, this article said the guys mentioned, he said, I don't have the slightest clue about Pokemon other than the fact that two of my nephews are just getting into it. Having an employee guide me through what would be appropriate for them is very appreciated. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm 78 years old. I don't have a clue how these games work.
Yeah.
People ask me questions and they'll say, I use this magic card and against this magic card and it did this. And I just shake my head and say, yeah, yeah, yeah. If they ask me a question and if Noah's in the store, I'll say, Noah, come here. I need your help. And Noah gets up and he can expound upon his, extensive magic knowledge. And I do that with a lot of customers and they're very willing to help out.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I found out about good customers. They're willing to share their knowledge. And it's important. And because it makes the customer feel that they're welcomed into the store.
Yeah.
And there's other people that can help them. All right. Let me see. I don't want to read this whole thing because some of it's boring stuff. All right. Again, we talked about this before. This article says, at my age, I'm assuming the guy is older, maybe not as old as I am. He says, my favorite LCS doubles as a place to hang out. It has a Cheers vibe where everyone knows your name. That's true. That's true with with most of the customers that come into the store. Uh, I've gotten to know each of the employees and the owner beyond just spending my money. I don't have any employees. I have help every once in a while. I'm the owner. I deal with the customers right up front. And fortunately, I have a good memory when it comes to names and things like that. And some of the little details about this particular person. I'm to the point in life where I can't even remember what I eat for breakfast half the time, but I can remember names. And that's important. They frequently have a card waiting for me when I come in, one that gives me the right of refusal, first, right of refusal on knowing that it may have a place in my collection. Again, if somebody wants a specific card, I'll try to get it for them, and I'll make sure that I hold it for them. And if they want it, fine. If they don't want it, I'll put it up in the case and it's up for grabs at that time. Let me see what else. And this comes from knowing their customers.
Yep.
And witness. And this guy who wrote this article with a significant number of customers who walk through their doors. That's what he witnesses. In my mind, what ultimately makes the LCS successful is its employees and the owner. Managing the complex combination of new releases, singles, supplies, apparel, and everything else can be a juggling act. Still, if the LCS owners surround themselves with good people, it can grow exponentially. This this writer said he's a proud regular at his local comic shop where he hangs out with people half his age and almost double his age, all sharing their passion for cardboard and for comics. That's it. That's what I wanted to talk about today.
Well, I think it's a good point. Anybody that's interested in being in the space needs to understand both how to keep people interested in coming back, but also thinking about participating yourself. Like, why do you come back? What do you do? Leave us a comment and tell us what you think about your local shop. If this is your local shop, leave us a comment because that's helpful. But we appreciate that. Before we get off, we want to say thank you to our Patreon patrons. For those of you who don't know, we do have Patreon to support the show. It helps us provide the content on an ongoing basis and to record and edit the podcast and videos. But we have been honored to have several ongoing supporters and patrons. We've got Nathan, Brian, Jacob, Drayden, Logan, Brandon, Grant, and Benjamin right now are all supporting the Patreon podcast stuff.
Do we have a new one?
That is Nathan. Newest patron, Nathan.
So
if you'd like to join the ranks, join the ranks.
What do we have? 8 or 9 now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is 8. All right. If you're interested in hearing more on the Patreon, we have behind the scenes episodes. We have more information about the store. We have more information about news in the card gaming industry. And we have behind the scenes chat between John and I before and after our recordings. For those of you that don't join us on the Patreon, join us next time here on YouTube or our podcast audio edition. And see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.